Can a robot do a site inspector's job today? Yes or no?
Short answer is yes. Question is whether you want it to be as accurate as you want it to be, so everything becomes like a glass house.
Should construction be worried about the next 5 years?
They shouldn't panic yet, but they definitely have to pay attention because the issue of getting labor, the cost pressures are going to be there. There is going to be robots that will be significantly faster and significantly able to outperform and in fact are superhuman in its capability to engage the physical world. So if we are not on top of this, the impact on humans is that they will be felt disenfranchised.
Chinn Lim built a tech company in Singapore, sold it to Autodesk, spent 5 years on the inside watching how the world's most used construction software actually works. Then, the Singapore government recruited him to lead their Smart Nation program, deploying robots, AI, and sensor networks across an entire country. Then, he walked away from all of it to start again from scratch. His company, dConstruct Robotics, now builds robots that scan construction sites, build digital twins, and catch errors before your team even gets to site the next morning. His clients include some of the biggest companies on the planet. But here's the thing. This conversation goes way beyond robots. Chinn has a view on AI, on power, on what happens when a handful of companies control the infrastructure the whole world runs on. He told me something about Autodesk that genuinely changed how I think about this industry, and he's got an analogy about elevators and autonomous vehicles that might change how you think about the future of buildings designs and society. This, my friends, is one of those episodes. I'm Owen Drury, and this is Bricks and Bytes. Enjoy. Okay, Chinn, thank you so much for joining me all the way from Singapore and a quick stopover on your world tour of bringing dConstruct to the world. So we're going to dive into some quickfire questions, then we're going to find out about you. So quickfire number one, is the world more or less stable than it was 5 years ago?
Definitely less stable, but it's an opportunity to lay the groundwork for new forms of resilience.
Nice. Can a robot do a site inspector's job today? Yes or no?
Short answer is yes. Question is whether you want it to be as accurate as you want it to be, so everything becomes like a glass house, or you want to have the opportunity to, look at all the different fuzzy areas and negotiate a better way to do stuff.
Interesting. Has AI lived up to the hype? Bear in mind, this is the 15th of April, 2026. So just to put the timestamp there.
Well, AI has certainly met the hype in terms of capability and breakthroughs, but I think he hasn't quite caught up in the real world for adoption across all industries.
Nice. So you're based in Singapore, from Singapore. Is I don't know why this, but anyway, is Singapore the smartest country in the world?
I'll say it this way diplomatically, it's strong in executing, planning, and the system level thinking is there, but it's certainly not the best in the world, right? Because smartness really depends on value in the innovation, the scale, the governance. Different countries have different priorities.
Very cool. Should construction bosses be worried about the next 5 years?
They shouldn't panic yet, but they definitely have to pay attention because the issue of getting labor, the cost pressures are going to be there. So moving early from a structural perspective is going to be important. They have to find out for themselves if they are too far behind to catch up.
Mm. hmm Will your kids and my kids live in a better world than you did?
While technologically certainly be more advanced, yes, and it will be more complex and unequal in many ways because the opportunities that come with access to innovation and now the AI, it means there's a lot that the new generation have to navigate to balance their perspective in life.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, last one then. Okay, so yeah, let me just give some context here. You coined this term when we first met a few weeks back, called and the phrase was tech for good. Can you explain what that means?
Sure. I didn't quite coin it, but it was from an organization, the government I used to work with called GovTech. And tech for good essentially means building system that amplifies our human potential ensuring that this potential is accessible to as many people as possible.
Autodesk, Singapore government, startup founder. You actually were a startup founder, sold your startup to Autodesk, worked there for a while. Can you give us a brief overview of your story?
Yeah, I started my company building solution that brings client server type application into the cloud. And when I was building this, I got an opportunity to work with Autodesk because they were transiting from selling just their software from disk to cloud-enabled application. So we worked with them for a little while. They made an offer after we worked for them and said, why don't you, we'd be interested to join the Autodesk family. So I did that. I was with them for 5 years. And after 5 years, the Singapore government came knocking at my door and said, look, we got a project for you if you're interested. Would you be interested to be a senior director to build a smart nation platform solution? So I thought it was a great opportunity to look from another perspective, that is the government. So I joined that. I was there on a contract, and we went from 3 years and added another 2.5. So I got ants in my pants and wanted to get back to my startup roots and decided that AI robotics was the way to go.
Why did the Autodesk buy your company?
I think it was a couple of reasons. One, we demonstrated that we could be able to integrate into the existing Autodesk platform. That's one. And second, we had the talent that they needed in order to think beyond their current business of distributing the software through disks, so CD disk. And we were already plugging into the cloud. And so we knew and talked the language of cloud first. And they were transiting from a company that was doing something that was very physical to something that was more digital. So that transformation that they were going through gave us an opportunity to have that conversation with them, and our IP that we have on board and the talents that we have, we were able to then make a deal for us to get into the Autodesk family.
One poorly managed incident. That's all it takes to demolish the entire profit on your project. And right now, the only thing standing between you and that disaster is your superintendent showing up at 3 a.m. buried in paperwork before the day's even started. That's why BreadCrumb exists. Not to add more technology to the job site, but to give the people running it tools that actually work the way they do. Safety plans signed off, orientations completed on any phone in any language, permits processed without the back and forth, no paper, no chasing signatures, all synced directly into Procore. With OSHA penalties reaching into the tens of thousands, that kind of oversight isn't just a nice to have, it's everything. Over 1 million workers across 50,000 projects globally have BreadCrumb in their pocket. Book a demo at breadcrumb.co. That's breadcrumb.co. Links in the show notes. Major construction projects are complex, and construction managers know that every day things don't go as planned. Unfortunately, most don't know what and why until it's too late. The best construction leaders know that the secret to delivering on schedule is for everyone to be planning together, committing to targets, and tracking their performance every day. By combining look-aheads, weekly work plans, visual staging diagrams, and daily activity briefings into one multiplayer platform, Aphex is where the world's leading projects are planned and coordinated. Join the largest projects and contractors across Europe, the UK, Asia, Australia, and New Zealand and discover why at aphex.co. In construction, precision matters. Every budget line, every schedule, every document. But too often, project data is scattered across tools and departments, creating risky silos. That's where Autodesk comes in. Autodesk is the all-in-one construction management platform designed to connect your entire project operation, from opportunity through to tender, all the way to handover. With real-time dashboards, cost control, scheduling, procurement, and document management in one place, Autodesk gives you complete visibility and control. Trusted by contractors, subcontractors, and asset owners worldwide, Autodesk has powered landmark projects from shopping centers to Europe's tallest buildings. If you're ready to reduce risk, protect your margins, and deliver projects with confidence, discover Autodesk today. Visit archdesk.com, that's ARCH desk.com, and see how leading firms are building smarter with ArcDesk. Hey listeners, I want to take a quick break to remind you about the Bricks Bytes newsletter. If you're interested in learning about the technology shaping the future of construction, you won't want to miss the valuable insights we share each week. To get this exclusive content delivered straight to your inbox, head over to www.bricks-bytes.com and sign up today. Link is in the show notes. Back to the show. What did you learn from the process of building this company and then selling it?
Yeah, first of all, you learn a lot about yourself, right? And you want to figure out what you prioritize as important. But one of the things that when you're running a company is certainly, unless it was a philanthropic tropic company, we have to figure out that we have top line and we got bills to pay and we have talents that we got to feed. So one of those things is making the decision, how much can we push the company to the level that we are all happy with. That's one thing we learned. The second thing is we have to figure out how can we contribute beyond the horizon that we see. There are companies that are big and are already established, gives us a lot of opportunity to look beyond the horizon and certainly give us a lot of opportunity to learn. The bit that actually is exciting is we see our technology scaled up. So as a company that started from Singapore and we have a smaller market, for us to be able to participate in a global company was very, very exciting.
Very cool. Now, okay, so tell us about like what was it like to work for Singapore government? What was your objective there? Like, what was your what did they say? We're paying you to do this.
Yeah, so good question. So Singapore has an ambition and that was made clear that we wanted to become a smart nation and not just a smart city. So the idea of a nation includes not just the infrastructure, but the people. So I was brought in specifically to look at what kind of infrastructure can we build in Singapore that allows us to use this technology for increasing and improving the quality of life with the citizens. So this was an exciting mission for us to take, not only because it is at the national level, but is also looking at discovering what technology we can apply that achieve the goal that our cabinet uh, in Singapore has set itself on achieving.
Mm. What was like? Can you give an example of some of the initiatives that you rolled out?
Sure. So one of the major consideration is what I talk about is, can we have conversations with a city or infrastructure or a town? So I was actively working with our team to build out the open digital platform, which essentially is a facility management tool that allows for messaging to the different IoT devices to the endpoints of a building, of cluster of buildings, and together into a small town. And then we are able to take this information and analyze the information and visualize the information for not only policy making, but also for situational awareness. So the system allow us to understand how much power we use, if even a door or room that is occupied, how are elevators being used, what was the crowd looking like, and it gives us information about the equipment and whether it is in good shape. Because we built this, we are allowing that conversation with robots as well. So robots doesn't necessarily have the hands or arms to open doors. So we were able to build the self-opening door with connecting to a robot demand to open that door, or how robots needs to get around horizontally by going through turnouts, as well as vertically through going through different floors. Of course, the robots that we can integrate with back then were robots that can deliver things, or in some cases also clean the floor. So that's how we started. And that conversation allows us to understand what kind of security system we need to put in,
Mm.
because we don't want the security system and the protection that's needed for physical infrastructure, especially now that you have robots talking to it. So this kind of information, we are able to collect the data, and we are able to understand from that data how buildings are used, how rooms are used, and it gives us an idea how to better manage the assets that we have and maintain it. The other projects that we've done was around smart lampposts, right? So one of the things that we were discovering is how does smart lampposts improve the quality of life for our citizens? Whether does it bring more safety? Or does it bring more convenience? Were they able to, for us to be able to provide safety because the lamppost not only provides light, but also allow for collecting of information, like if there's a traffic or if it is a node where we can use it to disperse wireless communication and so on and so forth. So we learned quite a bit about it. So one of the lessons I learned while working on a smart city for the lamppost was that it may not be the most efficient solution because Singapore is very urban already. Whatever that we want to hang on the lamppost, there are enough buildings nearby that we could have made it easier to install and learn to use the surrounding infrastructure that's next to roads to do the same job. The reason being there is specific use cases for lampposts. First of all, providing lights, and sometimes lampposts are not powered when it's not needed. So, for example, between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., there is not enough power for the lamppost to put on other stuff, other sensors and other equipment. And also for safety measures should there be an accident as well. So all these were taken into consideration with the proper authorities that manages this. And the conclusion that we have is Singapore is urban enough, dense enough, where the other buildings can provide that infrastructure to gather data much more effectively and cheaper. I think the most critical thing is we are in a government to serve the people. So everything that we do has to have a legal basis for it. And the outcome has to be crystal clear. Not only are we um, measured against how we spend public money, but it's also how can we use that money to provide services that the citizens want, and the citizens feel that when they have it, it improves their life. So this is one of the key factor, and the Singapore government is very diligent about this, and they're very careful about this. So sometimes when we think about bureaucracy, there's a reason behind it, because we have to cover not only how we deploy a solution, but we have also to look at the legal implication. You have to really think about there is politics involved. And so anything that we do, we have to be extremely careful, and we must be able to defend our position. So as a result, we need to document what we think and do, and then have those, in a sense, scrubbed by different perspectives, so that when the outcomes come out, it doesn't um, remove any part of the society that cannot benefit from it. So we try and work very hard to think about to be inclusive at the end of the day. The other lessons that we learn from it is that when we are looking at deploying any solution and using the massive resources that are available, we want to ensure that it's aligned with the overall direction of where the cabinet has promised the citizen. So in many regards, this helps us align what are the priorities that we focus on. Because we have so many resources and we have so many opportunities to do a lot of things, we could get carried away. So having very focused outcome is extremely important. And because of our research that we do, and we do very deep research in what we want to deploy, um, we will scour the world to figure out what makes sense. We learn from what other people do well. We also learn from the mistakes they make, and we ensure that we don't make the mistake, and then we enhance on all the good points so that the solution that we have in mind that's deployed makes a lot of sense to everybody.
Hmm. Very cool. Tell us about construction. Tell us about technology within the construction industry.
Wow. Um, that's construction technology, I think, as we know, is a very physical one, right? Because you don't make a digital burger. In construction, you really got to get the thing built, whatever that thing happens to be. Is a house, is a building, is a road, and so on. So it's a very physical activity. So how does this, in a sense, align with what's happening in AI and so forth? So I would say this thing: while the construction industry is very physical, there's a lot you can do with the data. So I believe the future of construction needs to be also in data collection. Because if you want to use AI in the world of construction, without data, you can't do enough. You wouldn't be able to link between what is digital and what is physical. So one of the amazing things that I think the people in the construction world may not realize it is, uh, people live in it. So it has an amazing influence in the happiness of people. So in many ways, while construction is a physical thing, there is that other touch that it will inspire people. You'll be able to give us memories. You'll be able to give us a safe place to live in. So construction on its own in my opinion, is important in that context. Now, how do we figure out in the construction space that it can continue to deliver in an effective way and cost effective at that? So, and also the problem construction, I believe, is facing is also there may not be enough people to be going into the construction industry. So the conversions of trying to manage costs as raw materials go up, and then to be able to find the talents, to be able to achieve the outcome that construction projects need to do, is not an easy one. So there is going to be a high need for automation, for AI, and in some cases, robotics. I say some cases because not all robots can do the work of a human, and it will take many years before robots can even achieve some of the things that we as humans do naturally. One distinctive feature that construction companies, I think, always face is that um, there is always the design that people have in mind, and then there's a process to build it, right?
Mm.
There is that gap that is you sometimes discover too late. So the question now is, can construction be able to understand what was designed against what is being built at a consistent milestone or real time, so that if mistakes are made, they can be captured? If we can do this, I think we can reduce the cost of construction from errors, and then have that savings to be distributed not only to the ones that finance the project, but also to the talents that's working on it. Then the
Mm.
outcome would be excellent, if we can reduce more errors.
Mm. Yeah, interesting. Tell us about that. Like, when did you decide that and see the opportunity and think like, yeah, this is where I'm now going to dedicate my life to. I'm guessing you had a few options to choose from as well. So it would be good to hear that decision.
Yeah. So what stood out right away is actually not enough talents around. So companies struggle from finding the talents to keep their business going. So that was one of the things that struck me. And given also some demographic information around fertility index, at least where Singapore is, we may go extinct, right, at some point. So the problem what I wanted to solve is, how can I do more with less? And this is something a business owner want to figure out in the very competitive world. So that's what drove me. And so I wanted to figure out a way how I can contribute to solving this problem. So I thought automation, AI, robotics was the way to go. And in that regard, I wanted to build intelligent machines that could observe like a human being and to be able to think like an expert and act in the context where it is put to achieve a mission. So that got me into thinking and gathering the talents for me to build robots with AI capabilities to achieve those goals that people who need more people to get job done but can't find them, and get the robots to actually step in to help the business move along.
Mm. So your target, what industries are you targeting? Obviously, construction being one of them.
Yes. So from an industry perspective, construction is an area we play well in. Other areas include facility management and in surveillance and security.
Mm-hmm. Um, and what kind of capabilities? Like, what is the service that of the robotics that you are building? Like, what is the service that they're providing to these industries?
So from a construction perspective, we're looking at surveying, right? So one of the solutions that we do provide is how does your construction progress look like against what you design? So we are able to take Revit drawings, beam information, and we are able to compare that with the construction site, where we have scanned using both LiDAR and terrestrial laser scanners. And this information that we have can be as around 1 centimeter to perhaps 2, 3 centimeters, depending on which kind of solution we use. And then we can superimpose that with the beam. And from there, we can get an idea how much progress was done, or whether that construction that was done was aligned with the design and how well it aligns with it. So there is some degree of opportunity to address. If something has gone wrong, we can pick it up. So we provide a solution that does that. And another aspect of it is our robots are able to carry other camera system that allows us to enforce safety conditions while construction is going on, like identifying if somebody is wearing a helmet or vest, or if somebody has fallen, or they are stepping into areas they are not supposed to be, and we can send that alert right away. So the enforcement of safety measures in construction, our robots can roam the construction site and provide that information. While they're roaming, they can also provide security, like if there's somebody who has intruded and not supposed to be at the site, we can pick this up and we can log the video evidence to show what's going on. And because we have the scanning capability, we can do pretty much quite a lot of things. And one of the major things is reconstruct it and provide a photorealistic, photo clear situation of the construction site. And then we can also provide something that is unique. What you are able to do for Google, like you are searching a word, because we have scanned the construction site, we are able to tell you if you're looking for an object, where the object is located, because we have scanned the area
Mm-hmm.
and pinpoint to where it needs to be. We can also provide information like there was a fire extinguisher that was there, but it's not there today. So where is it? So these are some of the things we can do with the data that we collect. Other aspects of it is we can also measure progress. So if someone is reporting that this is done, and we can verify it through our scan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nice. Interesting. Is it primarily site inspections for now?
Right now is for site inspection. We also do facility management through inspection. So we are able to identify if there were sprawling on the wall, pieces of things or bricks have fallen off or there are cracks.
Okay.
We can identify uh, things like if there was a walkway that was too narrow, and then it is a violation of safety because the emergency staff cannot go through, or there were unattended items that are not supposed to be there, we can pick it up. We are also able to look at read meters as needed and identify if they are in a correct meter setting. So these are the different facility management for maintenance that we use the robot to do. Example would be if there is a large facilities and you are certainly trying to figure out there's not enough people to do the inspection, we can get the robot to do it. And it's able to we can use different form, whether it is on wheels or whether it's on legs or quadruped, to be able to navigate the environment, take the lift on its own as well, go to all the different spots, and you can do it a few times a day if needed. I think the future will be around maybe I unpack it this way. So when buildings are designed for accessibility, is where robots will work very well. Although not every accessibility route is suitable, or it may not cover every part of the building, but it's a good start. I think moving forward in the future, construction will be looking at robot-friendly buildings. So that would certainly change when we think about how it's being built or designed and built, and certainly how it will be maintained, so that other robots that do surveying or inspection, you may also use robots that is for cleaning and for delivery autonomously throughout the building.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, I'd like to go into your thesis of the robotics and say just quickly on some faults that you've experienced of how you are implementing these robotics onto construction sites. So what have you learned so far about the industry's re, re, whether the industry is receptive to the idea or skeptical? Like, yeah, just speak to that kind of.
Yeah, sure. Our relationship with construction companies is a hit and miss. So what I mean by a hit is because they are urgently needing people to execute specific tasks, whether it's for inspection or whether it's for survey. They need somebody to do that, and they need to be able to collect data on a consistent and frequent level. So our robots and our sensors that we put on our robots to navigate a construction site is very useful for them. So that's a hit for them because that lower that manpower requirement, or they can reschedule people to do other things that are urgent. Where it's a missed is actually what I spoke about earlier, having a glass house perspective of things. Sometimes if you have too accurate a data collected, or you have too much information, construction company may worry, because how do they justify to the financier or the property owner if it doesn't meet the specification exactly? So the idea is there may be some tolerance for error, but if I can pick out an error regardless of how much you can tolerate it, you have a sense of something is not right. So that's what I mean by glass house perspective on a construction site. It's just too accurate. And
Mm-hmm.
so as a result of seeing everything at what it is not, sometimes give a psychological impact to those financiers or property owners, that, hey, this is not done right, while it is perfectly within the area of tolerance. So it becomes unforgiving. And so this may be a contentious area, and therefore, uh, companies that are in the construction field say, no, this is too much for me. I don't want to use it. I still want to use a person, and then negotiate if something goes wrong.
Mm. Yeah, that's interesting.
And sometimes it takes more than just a bunch of technology to navigate this field. There has to be some sense of wisdom in how that is done, because if you use it as a governance and penalty, then it's really going to be tough to getting the project done. So one way to approach this is not do it where you space out the inspection or you are checking the site too far apart. So the
Mm,
advantage of having this is actually to do it every day, almost. When the construction team goes home,
yep.
let the robot do its thing. So the next day you get a report, and that's what we do. We give a report where the items are missed, and you can correct it before it goes too far. And that's, I think, is the key, right? To
Mm,
see it as a partner, a solution provider into making sure that if there's an error made, it's caught at the right time.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Interesting. I'm curious. Uh, when you're thinking about this, and as it relates to the labor crisis and the reasons for you doing this, um, why did why did you pick site inspection and not go for something like bricklaying or yeah, painting or some of the other use cases that we see throughout the industry?
Yeah. So when it comes to painting and it comes to bricklaying, these are requiring robots of a considerable size. So in the context of trying to use this robot, say in painting, you really have to make sure that they paint it right. While there are many cases where a flat wall may be possible, given that the design going forward, seldom you find a structure where robot can easily navigate and move around or even get set up. So that difficulty is something that we didn't think we want to solve today. And then when it comes to brick laying and so on, in the context of Singapore, is always prefab. So
Mm,
it's done in a factory-like environment, and then it is then sent out to the site to be is essentially assembled. So the technology for this to do bricklaying in Singapore context may not be feasible to be a long-term business. Perhaps in bigger countries where you have a lot more space, and then bricklaying becomes useful.
mm.
Not saying that it cannot be used in Singapore. It just basically means the context where construction happens is different because of prefab in Singapore.
Yeah, very curious. Okay, cool. Of people now when they're thinking about robotics and particularly inspection and reality capture, you actually see some of the big reality capture platforms offering like a robotic inspection service as part of what they provide. So, why do people pick dConstruct, or over like other robotics companies that exist within the ecosystem?
Sure. So we are picked because our solution works, and the key about our scanning solution, it is very accurate. So that's one of the major reason. The second reason is because with the data that we collect, reality capture, we are able to do a lot of analytics on it, and we can use AI for the analytics. As I've mentioned, we can do things like reproduce it photographically accurate to a millimeter. We are able to search objects within it. We call few shot search. We are able to measure it from a digital perspective that is accurate without having to go to the site. We can take progressive scan of the area and then show that scan built up. We are also able to essentially detect what changed. So one of the interesting thing about change, I will segue a little bit, is not only can we determine a wall, we can also determine if the tree was growing and how much did the tree grow. So volumetrically, our analytics tool can do that, and it gives us information that is useful when the user wants to do planning. The other aspect of our solution that is interesting is that you can buy the solution or you can buy a service. So sometimes in construction, you may not want to own the equipment. You
Hmm.
just want to have a service, and you want to have the data and use that data to do a report, and that could be a lot cheaper. In many cases, if they want to own the equipment, means that they are a construction company they can use many times over. If they were just doing a project and far in between, they can engage our services to provide the solution that they're looking for.
Very cool. So your CTO is from Pixar, right?
Yes, was from Pixar. He worked under Steve Jobs.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a cool story. He worked on Wall-E and Toy Story 3.
Oh yeah, he worked on like I think 10 plus movies from Pixar.
That's a pretty cool story. So
Yeah.
question number one is, how do you attract someone like this to your mission?
Well, I think the long and short of it is that I need to have a vision that people feel that they can be part of. So one of the amazing thing working in my CTO is that not only is he talented and he's very smart and he has world-class experience, is that he figure out that our mission and our inspiration to do stuff using AI and robotics for society gels. And we think we can build something exciting and contribute to the world. I think that's one of the major things that kept us going at it. I think the second one is when we see the smile on the customer's face, right? We work on very hard we work on very hard problems and we have to find solutions to it. And these problems that we solve are not easy. To be able to get robots to understand its environment and then to perform the task autonomously is not easy task, especially in unstructured environment. So with him, we were able to pull like-minded people, and because of his talent, other talents want to work with him and under him to learn from him. So this allows us to build a team that can tackle these difficult problems that the society and industry face.
That's very cool. How's the transition going from building and animating like virtual
Oh yeah,
entertainment kind of let's call them robots for argument's sake, to
yeah,
real
good question.
ones?
Yeah. So if you think about it, it's actually all mathematics. So if you are looking at building a animation, most people think that you actually were animating a movement from one cell to the next cell. But if you're thinking about doing that, it probably take forever to get an animation movie done. In fact, what is actually true is that the animator just do a start of a animation of the character and then they show the end of the character. So, for example, the character is supposed to walk from A to B. It's not easy for you to animate one cell at a time, especially at 24 to 30 frames per second. Then you have to do a lot of animation. So, what actually happens is a program is written that transform the start of the character walking and then automatically bring it as if it was an animation to the end. So they actually write the code to do this. And there's physics involved and the mathematics involved in order to show it moving naturally. Or where a hair is wet or hair movement and rest of it. Those are not animated, but in fact programmed. So when you jump into from a discipline from graphics development and building research solution for this, the algorithm for this, and then we want to actually do reality capture in the real world, the principle do not change. So with this capability, my CTO and the team is able to calculate based on picture taken, LiDAR information taken, including the IMUs. We are able to recreate this and then manipulate this into providing photorealistic perspective of it at high accuracy. And we also use 3D Gaussian splatting in order to achieve the natural perspective of it and then to be able to fly through. This ability to fly through after we scan is very key. Robots only need to see point clouds, but humans need to see photorealistic perspective, not from just a picture point of view, which is a flat perspective, but also but a three-dimensional perspective so that you can move in and out and see it from different perspective.
Uh-huh.
Those capabilities are both required when they have grounded themselves with knowledge in mathematics and physics.
Mm. Wow. Okay. How do you make sure that companies don't get, or what's your advice to people who are implementing or thinking of buying robotics on a construction site? How do you make sure that they don't get burned? They actually work, so the rollout is successful, and they are fully advocating for robotics.
Yeah, construction company needs to be very, very clear about the outcomes they want to have. I want to state it out front. Not all robots can do everything that you see on YouTube. In fact, they are very, very far away from achieving any useful function in the real world. So you got to make sure that you don't get sucked into that hype. So making sure that you have very clear outcomes. Second, I think what needs to happen is you need to have the vendor, the service provider, show you on site. It's one thing to show a bunch of PowerPoints and a bunch of videos. It is very important to have the equipment seen on site, in especially your site, right? So sometimes your site could be a flat land, but sometimes your site is actually a tunnel. Sometimes your site is actually a bridge. So the sites are all different, and not all robots can do all sites. So make sure that the service provider is able to demonstrate it clearly on site. The third area is you have to work at setting your expectation to have very clear outcomes when the robots are being done, and that you have a opportunity to have the service provider hold your hand, because most construction companies do not have a robotics department. So as a result, they really don't have anybody to turn to if something went south. So it's very important as part of that service is to have the robot service provider hold your hand and guide you through. So that's the third aspect. The fourth aspect is once you get involved and you are fairly knowledgeable about how robots contribute, you really have to think about your concept of operations, how robot plays into the construction process flow, and when they come in and when they do not come in. So it will impact on the business re-engineering perspective of how construction work processes are done. And then I think the fifth area is figure out to be a partner to service providers, robot service providers, because the feedback is very important to get the robot to perform at the fidelity you expect for your next run. Robots can be tuned, algorithms can be changed. The robot company are unlikely to have deep expert knowledge in the industry they are in, especially in the construction field when they have so many tasks to be done and there are so many materials to look at. So it's very critical to be able to have a feedback mechanism. Some things can actually be tweaked within the time frame of your construction site. Some things is beyond it. And so creating that relationship means that you are able to feedback and for them to improve. So the next time you use them, you have a better product.
Mm. Very helpful. Thank you. Okay, Chin, zooming out a bit then. So when we caught up before, you said something about that something's happening with AI power and money, and it might affect everyone, whether they like it or not. Tell us what you're seeing and what you're thinking about in that realm.
Wow, that's a big one. So I think there is a new world order happening when it comes to AI power, and in many cases, how that would impact us. So I would like to touch on a couple of big ideas. The first big idea is you need data for AI to work very well. So that's a big idea. Second idea is actually there is going to be a new currency in play because of AI. And when I mean by the currency at play, um, taking the idea of AI providers and AI users, there's also the whole idea of AI infrastructure. So I believe going forward, there's going to be an AI token idea that's going to come about. So what I mean by this is large data centers will be built specifically for AI processing. And these large data centers, you're talking about uh, billions and multi-billions in terms of cost, and they will also be using a lot of water and electricity. So because of this, not many players can handle this cost and the scale to and the ability to build it at scale. So it's likely it'll be the big tech, but also governments. So when government get into the play of building large data centers that has these capabilities, what's going to be impacted is this infrastructure is going to sit there and do nothing. It will then create AI service providers. And with AI service providers, it will be building application agents that rest on the AI infrastructure to enable it to be useful. And there'll be many that will build this. And the VCs are actually funding this to happen. So agents, AI agents are being built by different companies. People are figuring new AI algorithms to solve very complex problems. And then you have AI users. So AI users will be paying for the AI service providers, who in turn needs the AI data center in order to get the application working. There is going to be a new token economy. So a new currency is going to come up because AI users, whether they pay in fiat or they're going to pay in tokens or crypto, whatever the case be, it is going to be requiring payment to this service provider in order to get the service that they want. So with this cycle, it basically means that it's going to be a divide. Those who don't understand AI and cannot use AI or have no clue how to start is going to be left out. The AI users and the AI service providers with the AI infrastructure is going to accelerate at very high speed when it comes to innovation and progress. What used to take a while for someone to build out a PowerPoint can be done very quickly today. And with AI, it allows it to give ideas that the person had not thought of in higher quality. So imagine if you do not have access to this, you do not have access to a computer or the internet, and you do not have access to this ecosystem. Or worst case, you don't have money to get access to it. The consequence of that is you will be left out as a person versus somebody who is augmented and powered by AI. That divide is going to just accelerate. So that, I think, is going to be a deep divide that's going to happen. But AI actually just exists in the digital world. There is going to be a need to figure out how AI, with all these advances, is going to connect to the physical world. Therefore, physical AI is an expression of the digital AI. And as the consequence of that, there is going to be robots that will be significantly faster and significantly able to outperform and in fact are superhuman in its capability to engage the physical world. So if we are not on top of this, whether it is in the digital AI or the physical AI, the impact on humans is that they will be felt disenfranchised. And this is something I think the governments will eventually have to struggle to figure out. Now, I'm not going to jump into how AI is going to be used in warfare. That is completely another subject. But I'm looking at how AI, digital AI, and physical AI can be used in terms of tech for good. I think that's where it is. The question has to now happen: what are the guardrails that we put when we are thinking about using digital AI and physical AI in our world, whether it's construction or other industries? Now, one of the major consideration is there a kill switch for this? I think we are beyond the kill switch. There is no easy way to shut this down, nor do I really want it shut down, because the benefits hopefully will outweigh I would say, the disadvantages that may come. So while we don't have that kill switch anymore, I think it is beholden on anyone who is in this field that's using AI and physical AI to make sure the guardrails are published and is made very clear to the end user what those dangers might be, so that anyone using it is conscious of the dangers that it might pose while enjoying the benefits that it provides.
Wow. So much to unpack.
Yeah.
um, yeah. So let me just correct me because I'm just interpreting what you said and I'm trying to translate it into my understanding here. So
Yeah.
when you mention AI service providers, obviously you have you mentioned some like the AI data centers being built, big tech and then government and are like them working together to deliver these data centers. Then on top of that, you have the AI service providers. So with these providers that you mentioned, would they be like the big names that we are already familiar with, like Anthropic, Google, and
Oh yes,
etc.
those would be the ones that those that provide the applications. Just like a Microsoft, right?
Yep.
So those who provide those applications have significant influence and impact in our daily lives.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, like OpenClaw, if you use that, is able to jump into, or any claw, Star Claw, right?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
able to jump into your phone and your desktop and help figure out your life. So what you have actually published is your life just went public, no matter how you think about it. So the
Mm,
danger is there any cybersecurity around this? The short answer is um, AI service provider are providing that service as fast as they can for two purposes. They want to get as many users as possible, and then they want to get the investors to help them proliferate and scale.
mm,
So the guardrails for security is now left as a afterthought. The
mm-hmm.
consequence of that is, if you think about it, if your data get hacked or somebody gets hold of it, or there's identity theft, or they screw up your life and do something, it's hard to recover.
Yeah,
It's very
that's
hard to delete a digital trail.
yeah. And I think also some of the more recent models, particularly Mythos by Claude, had caused some major security concerns within this big organization. Sorry, Mythos by Anthropic. And they held off releasing it, right? Because it was because the impact could have been so profound, which is extremely concerning.
Yes.
To think about. Yeah, and then so then like the race for not the race for humanity, I'm probably exaggerating slightly here, but like the divide within humanity becomes those who can afford to use this artificial intelligence but provided by some of these service providers versus those who can no longer afford to do it because one, they can't afford from a financial perspective, two, a technical perspective, they don't understand it, and three, I guess, just general access because of they live somewhere different or any other reason.
Yeah, exactly correct. That's why you read in the news, the data centers that are being built, you're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars.
Mm,
This kind of money is not easily available,
mm.
right? How much, how many GDPs or how many countries can group together when you're spending few $100 billion? And so only the ones who access it, controls it, they wield a lot of power.
Yeah, fine, I got you. Because the spending and the capital required is just so extraordinary.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
one, no one else can match that. Thereby, their divide just goes on to this ridiculous scale where no one's ever catching up at that point. And so
Yeah.
then, yeah, they can then effectively it becomes this ultra monopoly between these companies where they can. Well, I know that there's obviously competition within it, but if they all work together to increase prices and restrict use, yeah, it becomes quite a utopian kind of dystopian kind of thought start going through my head thinking about this.
I mean,
Interesting.
simply put, it's just a grab for AI to become the next power lever to control. And then the danger to it is if it's connected to the physical AI, right?
Uh huh. Yeah.
So anything physical connected to this intelligence is something to look out for.
Mm, that's wild. Okay. So Watch this space. Don't panic too much. Last question, because this one, Chinn, really, really thought provoking as well for people particularly listening to this about the elevator. So remember the elevator analogy where it kind of unlocked vertical movement through buildings and the
Yeah,
world? Like, tell us about that and how this then translates to horizontal movement.
yeah. So um, when you think about elevators, that was before the elevators were around or invented. Buildings were like maybe 5 to 6 floors. And the consequence of living on the top floor is anything that you need to bring up, you got to go through the stairs. And hopefully the stairwell is big enough to bring up your sofa and stuff, right? And then the other thing about it is nobody is interested to climb up and bring stairs up. So the consequence of that is actually the first floor is where the shop floor is.
Mm.
Everybody crowds around it, you make business around it. Nobody wants to go up much higher. So the value of the shop floor or the building space is actually on the ground floor. So that was back in the 18th century. But when elevator was built, what profoundly changed is people now can get to the top floor much easier. The consequence of that is it means that the top floor is now not having those problems. You can use a elevator to get up and move things up. And because you're higher, it means you can get higher, then buildings get much taller. The higher you get, the taller it is, then you get a wonderful view. That's why today buildings with a great view is the one right at the top, and you can see above everybody else, and they have no issue getting to it. And then the noise that's on the ground floor with now all the automotive and transportation that's around, it basically means you are closer to heaven than you're on the ground. But actually, if you think about the elevator, it is actually an autonomous vehicle, because when you get into the elevator, you press the button and you get from the first floor to the 50th floor without thinking much about it. And while there, you're talking to your friends around you or other people around you. But maybe these days people don't talk so much. But anyways, it's convenient. So it is a autonomous vehicle because you press, I want to go there, it brings you there.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of now looking at autonomous vehicles, and the advantage that comes with living up there is as if you took that vertical autonomous vehicle and then you move it down horizontally. So now imagine you have a world with autonomous vehicles that allows you to move anywhere easily, and where Waymo and Zoox are companies like that, and of course the robo taxi that is coming out. You can think of it as your time is saved, because when I get from A to B, you can do something else, and it changes the mechanics of getting to places, but it also changes the economic value. Just like high floors are important, it now means that you can get to any part of the city conveniently, and therefore there's no one part of the city that's going to be more important than the other because of ease of transportation. Today, we centralize into central business districts. We centralize city in a certain way. So with autonomous vehicles coming out, we will change the design of cities. There is no one spot that you will find there will be too heavily traffic, because you can get to any part of the city just as conveniently. So the same idea as an elevator changing the building, the horizontal autonomous vehicle will change cities.
Mm. Interesting. And then also, I suppose somehow tying, because we tied this into your point earlier about designing buildings for for robotics as well, and making, I guess, buildings where elevators are, but making buildings usable by robotics and not just humans.
That's right. So to extend the idea is that when you can move around horizontally, you really change the idea of car ownerships or mobility ownership. All right, because you just want to get to one place or another place safely. While doing that, you can do multiple tasks and doing other things. So in the context of how robots play that role in buildings that are accessible, you almost can imagine a world where the robot does most of your stuff, right? Taking out the garbage because it's able to move through the building, because the elevator is now accessible for robots. It basically means the robot is not only able to move horizontally, but also vertically. So if you give that freedom and you build the infrastructure for a city space that allows for this, when you have a COVID, it's no hardship, right? Because you now have robots doing stuff that otherwise you can't easily do. Now, most people survive in COVID because they had internet. Imagine you didn't have internet. Wow. You couldn't work from home. The world would have come to a stop. So the internet pretty much allowed people to work from home. And then you have this whole work from home thing going on. So wouldn't it be wonderful if there are people who are having accessibility issues to have that physical reach that otherwise they couldn't, and they will have to be dependent on caregivers and so on. So these aspects of where robot can play a role in tech for good is they can even be a companion of sorts, right? Because we live in a more and more isolated, lonely world. So if robots can play a role and open the person to a world they are able to be part of, and we can bring the world closer to them, uh, that's important because we don't live only in a digital world. We need to have a physical touch. So while this is not a substitute for human touch, but at least there is something they can feel. There is an interaction they can have in the city they live in.
Mm, mm. Wow. So much to think about. Okay, very, very last question, then, Chin. It's kind of open, but if there was one thing you could tell any construction leader, senior profession, or within the industry about the next 10 years, what would it be?
Well, in the next 10 years, I think construction will be pretty much the same. Where you will differentiate and where construction companies and service providers, service providers, is data. So you probably need to think about how do you collect data from as many touch points as possible to be ready to use AI to help you use that data, that digital information for decision planning, situational awareness. Because that data is going to impact when robots come into play. And you can then connect that knowledge into a physical robot, the physical AI to execute the plan. If you do not think about this today, what is likely to happen is those companies that have data, construction companies that have data ready, plug into AI agents, plug into physical AI, they will outperform the construction company.
And of course, to add one more ingredient to that would be that access to the AI service providers.
Oh
There were
yeah, absolutely right. So you have this token economy of the AI. So that's why the big boys are betting everything on it because the impact is not just construction; it's every facet of our lives.
Yeah, very cool. Wow. Chin, thank you so much. I really feel like we could have had like 3, 4 hours, but time is restricting. Cool. All right, Chin, can you tell people where they could find out a little bit more about your company, dConstruct, and also about you?
Sure. You can visit our website, dconstruct.ai, or you can email me, chin@dconstruct.ai. We have our products and our services published. And if you have any specific projects or ideas that you want to work with us, we are happy to be your AI robotics department. And we'll figure out to build a solution that not only works for you, but also for the industry.
Love it. Thank you so much.